The deranged occupant of the White House has warned that he could resume military strikes against Iran if the Islamic Republic doesn't agree to a peace deal to his liking. The genocide-loving US president has also defended his thuggery by publicly flaunting his role in arm-twisting corrupt FIFA to disgrace the game of football by revoking the one-match suspension of an American footballer. The FIFA has rejected Belgium's appeal, causing global outcry. A banner has gone on display in Turkey ahead of Trump's visit, asking parents to hide their children as a friend of convicted pro-Israeli pedophile Jeffrey Epstein arrives in their country. Millions of Iranians have braved the heat to take part in Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's funeral, with the crowd stretching over a distance of 20 kilometers. Hamas has dissolved its governing body in Gaza for the first time since 2007. This will be the broad focus of my video tonight. So the Israeli slave from the White House has now returned to his old tricks, threatening Iran with more deadly strikes amidst ongoing negotiations for a peace deal. He's the same guy who recently signed a surrender document with Iran, also known as the MoU, and flaunted it as victory. Today, even while issuing this fake threat, this delusional fool hailed the opening of the Strait of Hormuz as another victory. The same Strait of Hormuz, which was open to free passage of ships before he attacked Iran on 28th of February to please his Israeli master.
On average of 10, but sometimes less, sometimes more. 3 weeks ago, we had a night, 22 ships came out of the Strait, and the famous Strait of Hormuz, nobody ever heard of, but that is some big money machine, I'll tell you what. When you look at the numbers, Michael, that makes everything look small. No, wait. And we took out so much oil that people didn't know, and it only took a month and a half. They finally found out. They had no radar because their radar was destroyed. So we took them out late at night with no lights, with no nothing. And our great Navy, which did the greatest blockade anyone's ever seen, not one ship got through in 2 months. And we then freed up the blockade because we're close to maybe making a deal. I don't know. We'll make either. Look, we're going to win one way or the other. We're either going to make a deal or we're going to finish the job, okay? And it won't be tough to finish the job. I'd rather make a deal because I don't want to affect 91 million people. We can knock down their bridges in 1 hour. We can knock out their energy supply, all of those big plants that they built, big, beautiful, modern plants. They had a lot of money. They don't have any money now. We haven't given them any money. But we can knock out their electricity and power generating plants in, I would say, a small part of an afternoon. Every plant will be gone. And they know that. They know that.
Of course, the Iranians are not responding to his empty threats. That's because no one in Tehran takes him seriously anymore. Also, the Iranians are currently busy with the funeral service of their late supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Millions of people in Tehran today joined the funeral service. A Sky News reporter said that the crowd stretched a distance of at least 20 kilometers.
These are quite extraordinary scenes in Tehran as the funeral cortege of Ali Khamenei goes past us along a 20-kilometer procession through the heart of the Iranian capital. We are some way from its final end, which is in Masadi Square down the road there, but as you can see from here, hundreds of thousands of Iranians out on the streets. The Iranian government has promised the biggest funeral of modern times, saying 15 million people will come out on the streets, and from what we can see here, certainly hundreds of thousands have answered that call. That is his coffin there with the black turban on it, and then flanking either side of that are the coffins of his family members who died on February the 28th in a massive Israeli airstrike that began this 4-month conflict. A war that Israel and America had hoped would topple his government. Now, his surviving leaders and government would say this sends the opposite message. It shows that that war has been futile, that his assassination, his martyrdom in their words, has actually been counterproductive. It has galvanized public support. because, of course, this was a beleaguered government. In the months before that war, thousands came out of the streets to protest against the government. Iranians we've spoken to, some of them in the sidelines of this funeral, have not been happy with what's been happening here. There's an undercurrent of frustration and resentment, and a fear that what's happened here is strengthening his government. And certainly the leaders of Iran will hope that that is the case. They have mobilised and galvanised a massive show of mourning, but also of support and sympathy for their government. And this is just 3 days into what is a week-long funeral. His coffin is now going to go from here to the square down the road from here, but then go to Qom, the seminary city 2 hours south of here, and then it's going to Iraq, to Karbala and to Najaf, key Shiite shrines there, before he's finally buried in Mashhad, the city of his birth. And I think the authorities here will be satisfied with the spectacle that they have managed to put on here, a massive show of sympathy for Ali Khamenei, a man whose rule has defied not just Iran for almost 4 decades, but also much of the geopolitics of this region. A man who, whatever you make of him, has been a deeply consequential leader of a deeply consequential Middle Eastern country.
Iranian expert Negar Mortazavi says that the Iranians are trying to make a statement through this funeral ceremony.
For us, what we have been seeing in Tehran this morning, what's happened and what is still to come?
Sure. So it's a multi-day state planned choreographed ceremony, mourning of the top leader of the country who was killed at the opening of the war by the U.S. and Israel. First of all, the ceremony itself is a departure from religious tradition in Islam. In Shia Islam, you bury the dead as soon as possible. And this took months for the state to plan for security reasons, for wartime. It's being done in the holy month of Muharram, which is a holy month for the Shia. So there's political significance, there's religious significance. It's sending domestic messages to domestic audiences, regional, international, a message of defiance by the state, resilience after 2 wars by US and Israel, which the Iranians are projecting that they won and they resisted, and also a message of continuity for the state and for the Islamic Republic.
Meanwhile, the story of an Iranian flight breaking the siege of Yemen has suddenly gained momentum. In one of my recent videos, I had played the statement from the Houthis military spokesperson, Yahya Sari, on the Saudi military unsuccessfully trying to prevent an Iranian civilian aircraft from landing at the Sana'a airport. Now, more details have emerged on this development. It seems that not only did Iran manage to defy the siege of Sana'a airport, but it also brought a Yemeni delegation back to Iran.
Iran just broke the 11-year siege of Yemen, flew a plane straight into Sana'a, and nobody saw it coming. Or did they? Think about this. A slow passenger plane, visible on every radar in the Gulf, flying through skies Saudi Arabia has controlled for 10 years. A plane like this cannot reach Sana'a unless someone lets it. So the real question is not how it flew. The question is, who allowed it? Yemen says Saudi jets tried to stop the landing and were pushed back by missiles. Saudi Arabia says that never happened and threatens a devastating response. But here is the one fact nobody denies. The plane landed. 200 wounded and stranded Yemenis came home. Then it took off again, carrying Yemen's official delegation to Tehran, to the funeral of Ayatollah Khamenei, killed in the U.S.-Israeli strikes that started this year's war. A round trip through enemy skies, untouched, twice. For 11 years, that airport was sealed, bombed, blockaded, choked to a trickle. On Friday, the lock broke in a single morning, and Sana'a says the route is now permanent. Now watch the theater. Furious threats on both sides, yet no retaliation on the batteries that allegedly fired, no closed corridor, no consequences. Meanwhile, quietly, prisoner swaps, a calm border, even a Saudi envoy at Khamenei's funeral. This looks less like a confrontation and more like an undisclosed agreement, with the outrage staged for the cameras. Because after a war that proved American and Israeli protection has limits, Riyadh is planning for the neighbor that isn't going anywhere, Iran. The public fury keeps Washington and Tel Aviv watching the wrong story, while the real one consolidates underneath. The siege of Yemen is broken. The only question is who signed off.
The Iranian issue may gain momentum after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's funeral service has concluded. But Israeli lapdog Trump is facing global condemnation for his decision to disgrace the game of football with the help of his poodle in FIFA. Today, Trump himself admitted that he had arm twisted the compromised FIFA boss to revoke the red card issued to an American footballer so that he could play against Belgium tonight.
But I've never seen anything like it. So I saw the play, and I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete, and I understand sports really well, really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. That was two guys running full speed that happened to crash into each other. You can't take your foot and properly place it on somebody else's foot when you're going, no, these were two great athletes that got tangled up, and this referee, who is a little bit suspect, if you check his past, I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy, but very suspect. If you'd like, I'll provide you with the past. He made a call that nobody could believe. You know, even people on the other side, they say, oh, we got lucky. Wow, and it's very interesting. They say they don't show them in slow motion. And I never realized that. I never heard of that before. That they're not allowed to review in slow motion because it's so different. Because you'll take one little quarter of a second and you'll see that a hand is touching a neck or you see something. Whereas when you see it in fast motion, it will look like two guys collided, which is really what happened. They got sort of entangled. He didn't do anything wrong. And he's our best player or one of our best players, a very vital player. And he gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think it meant much. Then I started hearing that means he can't play in the next game, at least in the next game. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, it would have been unfair. But when they take your best player, or just about, they have some great players, and they say you can't play, that's very unfair. That's, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game, but how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected, and by the way, whose level of respect has gone up tenfold. And he was good before this started, but he really pushed it in this country. I'm the one that got them to do it. It was not Biden. Biden was asleep.
Another Israeli stooge, Ted Cruz, thanked Trump for his thuggery as everyone laughed.
And on behalf of all Americans, thank you for getting rid of that ridiculous red card. This is his. That was interesting. It was spectacular. There was a reason the FIFA trophy sat here for as long as it did.
This is who these glorified thieves and morally bankrupt maniacs are. Now this explains why these lot love to sponsor a genocide in Gaza, Lebanon, and are always eager to massacre school children in Iran. This also perfectly explains why these lot were friends to pro-Israeli convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, you can argue if the red card was correct or not, but once the referee has made a decision and the World Cup rule says it can't be appealed, you don't use your power to disgrace the game. No wonder people in Turkey have now put up a giant banner ahead of Trump's visit asking parents to hide their children during his trip. Trump may think it's cool to flaunt his thuggery, but the controversy isn't going to die down anytime soon. Belgium has already protested and even threatened to pursue all legal options on this matter. This despite FIFA rejecting Belgium's concerns.
Extraordinary developments in just the last few minutes. We heard directly from FIFA. They have ruled Belgium's appeal against the reinstatement of Flo Balogun for tonight's critical game as inadmissible. They say that Belgium was not a party to this process and therefore has no standing for that appeal. That means the bottom line that Flo Balogun is available for selection if, of course, head coach Mauricio Pochettino decides to put him in the team, given everything that he and the entire US team has been through. I've just also received a reaction from the Belgian Soccer Federation saying that they have been informed that their appeal is inadmissible, and they tell me, quote, the RBFA, that's the Belgian Soccer Federation, FIFA has said Flo Balogun can play. That is huge news for the US.
Listen to former England player Gary Neville on Sky Sports. He calls it a stain on the entire World Cup.
I should be crying, but I'm laughing. Wow. What do you say to that? He rang up somebody at FIFA and asked them to change their mind, and lo and behold, an independent committee then changed their mind. Look, it's a stain on FIFA, it's a stain on the tournament, it stinks. Actually, just to say to start with, I actually agree with him. I don't think it was a red card. And I actually think there should be some form of process, which apparently there isn't within the FIFA guidelines and rule book, to say that if there is an unjust red card, that we don't want to see players missing games, so that there should be an appeal process in place, so that maybe like we have in the Premier League where they get rescinded. Apparently that's not in place though, so that means it's not in place for any team. For then this to happen whereby just one team, obviously the host nation, and by the way, there's a lot of love out here for the host nation, there's a lot of love out here for the players, for Mauricio Pochettino, for the American fans, there's a lot of pressure on for them before the tournament. Lots of people didn't think they would do very well, but they've been a breath of fresh air from game one. But this now puts a massive stain on that, and they get brought into it as well. And I mean, it's unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It's ridiculous. But am I surprised with the sort of people involved? No.
Former Premier League manager and uncle of a legendary ex-England player, Frank Lampard, Harry Redknapp, too, has condemned Trump for causing disrepute to the game of football.
Now, Harry Redknapp's on the line, the former Premier League manager who was a contender for the England job at a point. Hi to you, Harry. Welcome back.
John, good evening.
I do want to start with I don't know, should we call it the politics? What more is there to say about President Trump and Gianni Infantino and Balogun, the striker?
Well, it's embarrassing, isn't it, as Matt Lawton has just said, really. So, England get a man sent off, is the king going to ring up FIFA or whoever and ask them if they can rescind the decision? I mean, to have the President of the United States, he admits he doesn't even know what a red card is, and what an offence is, really, that he got sent off for. It's just using power, and, unfortunately, we know that is how things are in the world. It's not just in football. Powerful man, President of the United States. It's shocking that he can overturn a decision that has been made, and what is he doing interfering in that decision that has been made by the referee and by VAR? He shouldn't.
Elsewhere, Hamas has disbanded its governing body in Gaza to pave the way for a team of technocrats to take charge of governance and hope that this will finally end the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territory. Hamas has ruled Gaza since 2007, so this development is massive. Whether or not it leads to the end of illegal Israeli occupation is anybody's guess. Only time will tell.
Well, after running the Gaza Strip for nearly 2 decades, Hamas has announced the dissolution of its governing committee. This paves the way for a transitional technocratic committee to assume responsibility. The committee's activities will be overseen by the Board of Peace, which was set up by US President Donald Trump when the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel was agreed in October.
The head of the emergency committee has just resigned. The government has been dissolved for the preparations to transfer the national roles to the Gaza Management Commission. It's with confidence that all the preparations for the handover of legal responsibilities of Gaza Strip has been completed. These arrangements were presented in a transparent and official manner to the delegation representing the Palestinian factions and the Higher Commission of Tribes.
That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.